Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. So, breaking news in this instance, Anthony Joshua has been involved in a fatal car accident in Nigeria, which has left two unalived. Okay, breaking news right now. AJ was not the driver of the vehicle, he was a passenger in the back seat. I'll give you all the details as we go on here. So this is being reported by Sky Sports and basically every other outlet out there. But Sky Sports say Anthony Joshua, former British world heavyweight champion, injured in a car accident in Nigeria. They're unalived too. They obviously use a different word than unalive. That's the word I'm going to utilize for the sake of the algorithm. This, I think, is from the New York Post. You can see the headline there. So Sky Sports go on to say Anthony Joshua was taken to hospital with minor injuries after the crash in Nigeria. Two other people were unalived in the crash. Joshua was traveling in an SUV that collided with a stationary truck. Unverified footage on social media shows Joshua in pain as he is helped out of a wrecked vehicle. Goes on to say Joshua sustained minor injuries when the SUV he was traveling in collided with a stationary truck, Ogun State Police Command said. So if we have a look at some of the still images, I won't play the clip for copyright reasons, but this is the clip on X. You can see, and there are several clips actually. There are various clips on social media, on YouTube, should I say, and this clip on X. But these are still images. You can see AJ was in the back. Here's one. Here's another. And here's the third. This is AJ being helped out of the car, and you can clearly see that he's wincing in pain. So when they say that Anthony Joshua suffered minor injuries and that he's okay, well, yeah, he appears to have suffered minor injuries in the context of a fatal accident. But are they minor injuries in the context of a professional boxing career? That's the big question here. We don't know. Will these injuries that he sustained inhibit his ability to fight in any way? Will they compromise his ability to fight in any way? We await further updates. Now, with regards to the two people who sadly lost their lives, I haven't read any confirmation of whether they were in AJ's vehicle or in the vehicle that they hit, but from what I'm hearing on the rumor mill online, it was two people in AJ's vehicle. One of them was sat next to him, and the other one was in the front seat. And it was AJ and the driver, because AJ was apparently behind the driver, who survived. So not only have we got a situation where AJ's been injured here, potentially affecting his fighting ability, we'll see, but he's also obviously suffered trauma, right? If you see two people unalived right next to you in that kind of brutal fashion hitting a truck, it can do something to you. It can cause you to go into shock. It can leave psychological scars. And AJ, as we know, is someone that isn't necessarily as robust psychologically as some of the other fighters in the heavyweight division and in boxing in general at the top level. He's much stronger mentally than the average human being, obviously. But we're not talking about the average human beings when we speak of high-level professional boxing. So this is the breaking news. Very unfortunate, right after AJ had a PR bonanza with the Jake Paul win in the United States. And I say PR bonanza stateside, not UK side, because outside of super casuals in the UK, no one was really that excited about the fact that he knocked out Jake Paul. In fact, people were more critical of it, certainly in the UK boxing community. But in the United States, not just among casuals, but even to some extent in the boxing community, it was seen as like AJ's not coming out party because he's fought in the United States before, but let's just call it his re-coming out party in the United States. And it went very, very well from that perspective. It was a PR success. So right after that PR success, he has a situation like this where he gets into an accident in Nigeria, and we don't know what his physical state is going to be. He's not obviously suffered any serious injuries that would, stop him walking, or certainly nothing life-threatening. But we saw with Errol Spence, obviously Errol Spence's car crash was far more serious for him than this one is for AJ. He was tossed out of his vehicle and skidded across the road and had to have his teeth fixed and all this type of business. But we saw from that Errol Spence was never the same again after that accident. Again, AJ hasn't suffered ostensibly the same type of damage that Errol Spence did, but there's still the possibility that this could affect him negatively as far as his ability in the ring. It's certainly not going to help him, is it? At the very least, there is no way that going through this is going to make AJ better. Do you know what I mean? It can only be to his detriment physically. So I'll throw it over to the live chat. Let's see if anyone's got any more information, any more rumors with regards to this situation. And we will discuss some other boxing news as well. Heavyweight stuff. So shout out to everyone in the live chat. Rich Franklin says, lucky guy. Yeah, lucky to have survived without any serious life-threatening injuries. Big up HC, he says, Luke's prayers almost answered. All right, some dark humor there. Is Luke that twisted to wish something like this on AJ? I would certainly hope not, but you never know what's in a man's mind. Oh wow, HC says apparently the two guys who were unalive were AJ's pals. Damn. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. AJ's pals? See, that really could hit him hard psychologically if that's true, especially if they were close pals. Do we know who they were? Like which pals in particular, the names of them? That's terrible. Afro Soul says, be careful out there in the motherland. Yeah, some of the driving out here is insane. And I'm talking about from cab drivers. Because I catch cabs everywhere, and the way these cab drivers are zooming around, yeah, you better buckle that seatbelt, bro. So, yeah, I try and take as much care as possible. YK Warner says, I hope the driver wasn't trying to chat to him in the back seat by turning around. I got no idea. All I can tell you is that where I live in Africa, there's a lot of very, very reckless driving by cab drivers and all sorts of people. And with cab drivers in particular, reckless driving because they want to get to the next job and make more money. Right? They don't want the job to take that long. They want to fit in as many jobs in a day as possible. Ocean Blue says some partridge juju. Dominica says evil AJ arc incoming. Big up Al Booga. Yeah, people are asking who are the two friends. I would like to know as well, because depending on how close I mean, look, it's going to be traumatic for him either way, but the closer he is to those friends, the worse it's going to be as far as the psychological impact for him. Shout out to HC for the super chat. Big up, big up. Sports fan says the Nigerian highways are a jolting, ridiculously chaotic and unsafe. So Kevin says, Looks like a back injury for AJ or whiplash. Yeah, I've had whiplash before, and it is excruciatingly painful. For the sake of AJ's boxing career, his fans better hope that he hasn't suffered anything that will be detrimental to his ability to perform in the ring. Shout out to South Star Online Foundation, big up. He says, my man needs to stay out of Nigeria for a while. Big up Ace, he says, AJ finally gets the recognition he deserves and this happens. Sad to see, prayers go out to him and the victims' families, 100%. Yes, yes, Deej, blessings. Indeed, you never know what's round the corner. Shout out to Copzilla for the super chat. He says, I don't think AJ had a seatbelt on either. Then he's especially lucky to come out relatively unscathed in the grand scheme of life. And yes, if you look at AJ's face in this still image taken from one of the videos, he's clearly wincing in pain. So when people say minor injuries, yeah, minor injuries relative to the two other unfortunate souls who lost their lives in the accident, but are they minor injuries in the context of a boxing career? Ganzoy says, Ngannou, now AJ, African roads are dangerous. Has Ngannou been involved in something like this recently? I wasn't aware. The Shed says, Luke will be desperate to fight him now. Now that I can actually believe. Squizbar says, the mental trauma is unimaginable. Yeah, if two of his good friends have been wiped out next to him, that's going to haunt him, I would imagine. Oh, wow. Robert says, yeah, last year, Ngannou crashed. Apparently, the crash Ngannou was in was also fatal. Very unfortunate. Rambo says, knees are gone, question mark. So some people are talking about the hazardous nature of roads in Africa, which they generally are in my experience, but it varies from country to country. But of course, people can pass away in any country, and living in London for a large part of my life, I can tell you that there's plenty of fatal collisions in London with idiotic drivers who think that they are in Fast and Furious or something. One of them being Getz, the rapper, who unalived someone, what was it, a couple of months ago now? A student from the Far East with his stupid driving. Afro Jam says, He could channel that energy into whooping fury or could crumble, and his questioning of himself could worsen. Doggyland says it better not be his back. He certainly appears to be in pain. Just look at the still image. Maybe Eddie Hearn will give us an update on what the nature of AJ's injuries actually are. And only when he gets back in the gym after some weeks or months will we know whether it's affected him or not. In fact, we won't know, but his team will know, and he will know. Danny says 2 weeks after talking about unaliving JP. And maybe Danny thinks it's poetic justice for AJ for this to happen. Is that what you're saying, Danny? Karma. Shout out to Danny for the super chat. W Max says, yep, Get's going down for a long time. RIP to the young man who passed away. Are you sure Getz is going away for a long time? I hope he is. Because he should know better. He's a man in his 40s who's got lots of previous driving offenses. So he's not his first rodeo. He should know better. There's no excuse for what he did. And personally, you know, the way people drive in and around London is ridiculous. You know, some of the younger guys, ridiculous driving in built-up residential areas. And I don't care what anyone says. You know, when someone has been alive like that, a young person, Getz deserves to get a very, very long sentence as far as I'm concerned. Maybe to make an example. Yeah, they talk about him setting a good example over the past few years. Well, a good example would be to give him a strong sentence such that other people will be discouraged from driving like that and being so reckless. Big up Sideman for the super chat. He says, people say it's healthy mindset and Cena evolve. Okay, I'm a little lost there with that comment. I don't know what the reference is. Forgive me, I'm a middle-aged man. You clarify, I'd read it out. Shout out to HC for the super chat. He says, my bet is Luke is smart enough PR-wise to release a positive message on social media, even if it's fake sympathy deep down. That right there is something that I actually expect to happen. That's something I expect to happen. Yes, HC. HC. You know, Partridge is a shameless opportunist. And so many of his sentiments are fake, as we've seen over the years. So, as you say, I wouldn't at all be surprised. In fact, I would expect him to come out with something sympathetic, but then push for that fight as soon as possible. Now, yep, I would expect him to do something as cynical as that. Hey, it says moving like Palpatine. Oh, excuse me. So those are the names of the Instagram pages for the two friends of AJ that passed away. I see. Thank you, Sideman, for that. Healthy Mindset and Cena Evolve. Let me actually put those into Instagram right now as we speak. Big up Sideman for that bit of information. Thank you. So, I'm going to put these into the Insta now. Let's have a look. There are several accounts called Healthy Mindset. The one with 1_ in it. Let me have a look at him here. Let me get the other one as well. Cena Evolve. Copy and paste this in. Have a look at this guy. Very, very tragic. Obviously for the families of these gentlemen. But also for AJ, if he was close to these guys, he's seen them pass away like that right next to him. Very, very traumatizing. Both of these guys appear to be all right, I'm looking at him now. This guy appears to be some kind of bodybuilder, the healthy mindset guy. A very large individual, right? Muscular individual, healthy mindset, very big, very, very big guy. Pictured with Eddie Hearn. So he's got 77.4 thousand followers on Insta. And the other guy's Cena Evolve. Looks like Turkish or Arabic or something. And also into his fitness. And he's there pictured with AJ. So if it is these two gentlemen who have passed away, RIP to them, condolences to their families. I don't know how close these guys were to AJ, but one of them is a personal trainer, healthy mindset. That's what it says on his Instagram account. And the other one, it says, is a sports rehab injury prevention S&C coach, Team AJ. So I can't confirm that these are the two individuals that have passed away, but this is what people are saying in the chat. So we await confirmation if it is these two. And I do have to say that because in case there are family members of these two listening and it isn't one of them that's passed away, it would be irresponsible to make out as though this is official. Don't want to frighten anybody. It's just a rumor online right now. Yes. Shout out to Sideman. Big up HC for the super chat. It says, my bet. Okay, yeah, I've read that one. Big up Ben Oldham for the super chat. It says, prayers for everyone involved. Indeed. Charles B is saying, I saw the bodies and they look like locals to me. Okay. We shall await confirmation with regards to the people that have passed. So there are people on Healthy Mindset's Instagram page saying RIP. Loads of people on the Instagram page saying RIP. So I don't know what's going on with that. If this individual has actually passed away or people are jumping the gun, I do not know. Some people are saying they hope it's not true. As you would expect. Is it possible that they have been injured somehow in the accident, but not fatally? Two members of AJ's team. So I'm going to keep refreshing my news feed here to see whether the names of the two people that tragically lost their lives have been confirmed. Wave says, bro, I hope AJ retires. This is too much to come back from. Shout to the amateur, excuse me. Yes, the amateur. Let me just refresh this tab quickly because Firefox is on a madness. So big up to the amateur. He says, life is crazy. He would have been gone. This weighs on your mental. Healthy mindset was a childhood friend of AJ, RIP. Big up the amateur. Sideman says, let's just get that back up. Your Sideman says, Badu Jack just confirmed it on Instagram. Let me check Badu Jack's Instagram page right now. Not that Badu Jack's word is absolutely gospel, but he may be more in the know than most of us. Let's have a look here. Obviously, Badu Jack lives in the Middle East, and it would appear that at least one of these gentlemen, who people are claiming lost their lives in the accident, lives in the Middle East too. In fact, both of them have got the UAE flag on their Instagram profiles. So just checking out Badu Jack's latest. Okay, this is a little slow here for some reason. Okay, yes, Badu Jack has put out this statement on his Instagram. It says, still in shock. May God forgive you for your shortcomings and grant you the highest level of praise. And he's added, healthy mindset. So Badu Jack is certainly and then he's posted a picture of himself with this healthy mindset guy. So Badu Jack certainly believes that this young man is one of them who's lost his life. Somebody that he knew. Now, for those who don't know, AJ was not driving. He was a backseat passenger. AJ really would have to be nuts if he was driving in Nigeria. That's something you don't do if you've got the money that he has. So some people are claiming that nobody passed away from AJ's car. But other people are saying that's not the case, and they did. I'm refreshing my news feed here. Typing in some different search terms. So I'm just looking at a video here. AJ in pain, being helped out of the car. Clearly in a lot of pain. No, I've already seen this video. It doesn't show the people who sadly passed away. Squid Bar says, I don't know how roads are in Nigeria. Are they as chaotic as some Asian countries? I think certain Asian countries like Bangladesh, for example, are probably even more chaotic than Nigeria. But I don't think Nigeria is too far behind. But I've seen plenty of videos and footage from places like Bangladesh, India, parts of India where the roads are absolutely insane. Indeed, as Lay says, driving is dangerous everywhere to some extent, particularly in cities. Okay, MT says to look in my element group. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing an image here. Let's see if I can post this image. It shows the state of the car, which is horrendous. Let me just post the state of the car here. You'll see it. So you can see what a serious incident this was by the state of the car that AJ, I believe the one that AJ was apparently in. So have a look at the state of the car here. Crazy. Let's, where we at? Fit to screen. In fact, we need to drag this out and make it a bit bigger. It's a bit small here. You can see there, and there's obviously a lot of claret on the ground. That is the state of the car. I mean, you want to say miraculous that AJ made it out without more serious injuries. Looking at the state of that car, that's crazy. You guys looking at that? That is mad. That is mad. A horrible, horrible incident. Just going to crop out some of that claret for a second because that could get the video zapped by the algorithm. But that's the state of the vehicle apparently that AJ was in. Terrible. It must have been presumably going at some speed for it to end up like that. Well, people are saying surely AJ is just fine. Well, yeah, he's just fine relative to the people who lost their lives. But is he just fine as far as his boxing career goes? That's the question here for him. Because he has suffered some type of physical injuries. We don't know whether that will affect his ability in the ring. And also the psychological trauma of seeing two people unalived like that. Big up Al Booga. He says, big up Hatman. Much respect. Shout out to Goozy. He says, AJ should just retire after this. Shout out to the Boxing Factor for the super chat. Right, I'm looking through the Element group here to see if there are any other videos I can post screenshots from. Okay, this one says I need to have an X account in order to view it, and I do not have an X account, so. Shout out to Bexy. Robsky says, Fury call out video incoming. Hazaroth says, well, AJ versus Partridge is completely off the table now. Well, they were talking about AJ versus Partridge for September. They were talking about AJ having a tune-up maybe in February or March. The February or March tune-up, I would imagine, is completely off the table, yes. But depending on the nature of AJ's injuries, both physical and psychological, there might still be a chance of Partridge in September. Same as saying, since I put something up on Element. Yeah, I can't access Twitter X videos that are sensitive content because I don't have a Twitter X account. So unless you download it and then re-upload it to Element, I won't be able to see it. But big up Same Hussein. Shout out to Charles B. He says, very sad. I think AJ should retire now. And since I've been saying that AJ should retire after he lost to Dubois, I have to agree with you. There's nothing that AJ's done since that Dubois lost to convince me that retiring would not be the best option. So big up Charles B for the super chat as ever. But yeah, I concur with you. AJ should retire. Sometimes life, God in the view of other people, the universe, however you want to describe it, gives you signs. Is this a sign for AJ to retire, or is it something he will interpret in a completely different way? You do get some instances where a person will go through something particularly traumatic and it would actually spur them on. It will actually unlock something in them. Big up Charles B. Big up United. He says, not one ambulance in sight. Nigeria is a mess. RIP to the two who passed away. Ditto to that. And that is something which unfortunately is quite common throughout Africa. Believe it or not, I mean, I was told where I live, in the part of Africa where I live, that if you are involved in a serious accident, don't wait around for an ambulance. You're gonna have to get a taxi to take your injured self or other injured people to the hospital. That's how it's done apparently in a lot of countries in Africa. Yeah, a taxi, you'll call a taxi to come. I mean, the taxi's gonna have, if people are seriously injured, claret all over the seats and whatnot. I mean, it's extraordinary to me that taxi drivers agree to do that kind of thing. Shout out to Ray Carl Brown for the super chat. He says, hope you had Christmas, Atman. A good Christmas. This is why we need to be careful when driving. This might affect AJ. For long-term mentally, this is a very serious accident. Yes, indeed it is. Thank you for the super chat. I hope you had a great Christmas as well. And truth be told, I don't care what anyone thinks. I drive like Miss Daisy. You know, I've never been somebody that's into fast driving and zooming around on the roads, even when I was young. I've always been someone that drives within the limit, drives sensibly. I don't see why I would do anything else. Yeah, I've always been someone that drives like a granddad, that drives like Miss Daisy. But big up Ray Carl Brown for the super chat. Plenty of my friends, in fact, I lost a friend back in the days who was driving recklessly on a motorbike. He was only in his 20s. I'm sure many of you have also lost people from situations like this. Not always their fault, obviously, but I'm sure for some of you, in some instances, you might have lost people and it was their fault. They were driving recklessly and they paid the price. If he says the crash was in the middle of nowhere, and is that perhaps why, well, let me not say why, but if the driver was being reckless, is that the reason, perhaps? Because they were out in the middle of nowhere, maybe going around a blind corner, hit a truck that they didn't expect to be there. I've got no idea, I'm just speculating. Harry says, not as on the road in every country, unfortunately. That's a whole fact. So, according to King James here, is this feed Khabib? He says the Nigerian police have said the truck was speeding and lost control during an overtaking maneuver. So, is it the truck that was to blame rather than the vehicle that AJ was in? Leia says Fury better not be disrespectful here, but wouldn't be surprised if he does. I don't think Fury will do that. I think Fury will give some condolences out and some fake sympathy. I reckon that's what he'll do. And then after a couple months, he'll be pushing for the fight like you wouldn't believe. Oh, okay. Not the truck, the car AJ was in. So you're saying the car AJ was in was doing the reckless maneuver? Is that the overtaking maneuver? Nathaniel's saying that in Dubai the driving is reckless. Oh yeah, it is. I lived out in the Middle East and the driving is generally terrible. I mean, I did a driving test in the Middle East and it was the easiest test you could possibly imagine. I mean, unbelievably easy. So the driving test that I did in the Middle East took about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It was pretty much unfailable. Couldn't fail it. It was so damn easy. Someone is claiming that AJ's Lexus was overtaken and hit a stationary truck. Okay, that's not confirmed, but that's what someone is saying in the live chat. People are asking who are the people that passed away. They are alleged to be two of AJ's friends. A couple people in the chat have named who they believe these people to be. Badu Jack certainly believes that one of these names is accurate because he's RIP'd the guy who he personally knew on his Instagram page. You got a picture with him up there. Some fitness guy. Ed Ellaby says you don't have a UK driving license. I do have a UK driving license. I've also got a foreign driving license from when had a foreign driving license from when I lived in the Middle East. I was living there for several years, hence I got a driving license out there. And as I say, it was the easiest test you could possibly imagine. When I did the test, I was like, wow, no wonder the drivers out here are terrible. This test is ridiculously easy. No, I have not seen the bodies. No. But yeah, that will be very traumatic for AJ. Bomber Bolton says Middle East driving tests are great. Well, certainly not the one I took. I'm not sure which Middle Eastern countries you're talking about, but the one I took was horrendous. I mean, in how easy it was. It weren't great at all. It was shocking. I couldn't believe it. It literally took 10 minutes. Some people are saying the two individuals who passed away, their names have been confirmed. I'm looking for confirmation now with a search engine. Can't see anything yet. This is breaking news, people. Anthony Joshua has been involved in a fatal road accident in Nigeria. He has survived with minor injuries. He was a backseat passenger, but according to reports, 2 other people did not survive. There are videos online circulating of the aftermath of the accident. AJ being helped out of the car, wincing in pain. So there is some type of injury there, but we don't know the exact nature of it yet. Ellen Joe of the Dark Moon says that'll be AJ done with boxing, I reckon. I got a crash tab here. Hold tight. Oh, okay. Bomber Bolton says in terms of paperwork, in terms of convenience, excuse me, because paperwork takes longer than the test. That's a whole fact. I mean, everything about the driving test I did in the Middle East was, alarming. From how short the test was to the eye test they did. So, for example, in the UK, I have to wear driving glasses by law. Whereas when I did my test in the Middle East, they literally sat me down, got me to read some letters, which were far too close to me, by the way. And there was a guy in front of me saying, read these letters. And I couldn't get past a certain line. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. He didn't say you have to wear glasses or anything. Unbelievable. And the test took about 10 minutes. So yeah, not to bang on about the standard of driving in the Middle East, but suffice it to say it's terrible. When I was there anyway. People are asking, should AJ retire now? I think so. Well, I've been saying he should retire since the Dubois fight. So if I thought that then I think it even more so now. Yes, I think he should retire. Ed Ellaby says you can't say minor injuries because you don't know the severity. Well, that was the point I made at the start of the stream. These are minor injuries relative to the people that lost their lives. Yeah, minor in that sense. But are they minor injuries relative to a boxing career? Are these injuries going to affect his ability in the ring, Anthony Joshua? We don't know yet. That remains to be seen. Charles B. says Ogun State officials have confirmed there were 2 male foreign nationals who passed away. Lay says, I've already seen trolls mocking AJ for their sad world. It's a very sad world. Warren Williams says, I don't think the Fury fight ever happens. I don't know why Joshua likes to go to ghetto places where the roads are unsafe. He got millions, but seems to want to prove that he's down with the ghetto. Well, I don't think it was in the ghetto. Obviously, Anthony Joshua has Nigerian roots. His parents are Nigerian. And over the past year or so, he's been going there, it would seem, more often than normal. Some people are saying that this incident occurred not in any city, but actually in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. Scouse Farm says absolutely his mental will be negatively affected. Hang up the gloves, AJ. Just scrolling through again, for those of you who are just joining the stream, some images here of AJ in the back seat of this vehicle, which was totally written off following this horror smash. There's AJ being helped out of the vehicle, wincing in pain, and you can see the video that this still image was taken from online. It's on YouTube and other social media platforms. So AJ obviously has suffered some type of injuries. But will the mental scars be worse than the physical ones? Ben Odom says, when I visit Ghana, I drive 90% of the time, especially on the motorway at night. Driving is horrendous in Ghana. Shout out to Ben Odom. Evil Uncle Phil says he's not trying to prove anything. His family lives all over Nigeria. Okay. Grabarino says, I saw the aftermath video and one of the guys was beheaded. Insane. Yeah, that can happen in a smash of that severity. And a friend of mine who passed away in the UK many, many years ago, he was driving his bike and he used to drive recklessly on that bike. He was into power bikes and he hit a large vehicle. And I was told that his body was scattered something like 100 yards, strewn down the road 100 yards in pieces. He hit some type of very large vehicle on his motorbike. I really don't understand why people want to drive at ridiculous speeds on, go to a racetrack or something. Shout out to everyone joining the live chat. And not to put too much on AJ, because you can't physically force someone, but I would hope he was telling the person to slow down, and to drive sensibly. Chris Ward Music says, same thing happened to the Namibian middleweight champion Harry Simon. I don't think he was the same after it. Oh, wow. Someone says the Call of Duty creator last week in a Ferrari. Is that right? One of the original Call of Duty creators last week had a crash in a Ferrari? All right, someone is saying that they've heard a rumor that a tire blowout was the reason for the crash. Well, that's particularly unfortunate. If it wasn't anyone speeding and it was a tire blowout, that's very, very unlucky indeed. Or are you talking about the Call of Duty creator rather than the AJ situation? Oh no, people are saying it is the AJ situation was from a tire blowout at speed. Well, that's double the problems, isn't it? Speeding and then you get a tire blowout. Yeah, disastrous. President Bush is saying juju. I guess they're talking about the timing of it. It seems unlikely. Well, life is like that sometimes. It isn't always foul play. Sometimes life is weird, Things are going well. You think you've put every obstacle behind you finally, and you've got a clear stretch of road ahead of you. And then life throws another massive curveball at you. It's like that sometimes. All right, so let's talk about a little bit of other boxing news for now. We can come back to the main story. But to just move away from this tragic situation for 1 second, you got Tony Sims, the new trainer of Daniel Dubois, saying that he would like his charge to fight Fabio Wardley. He said, "I'd like the Wardley fight for him. That's the fight. It's been mentioned. He's operated at a higher level now with Joshua and Usyk, and it's no good getting a name for a comeback fight. He's past all that. I'd like to see him fight Wardley. I think that's a great fight for British fans, and it's a great fight for all fans, really, because they're both punchers. I think it would be a fantastic fight, that fight." I completely agree with it. Somebody on a stream recently asked me for, I think it was Charles B actually, big up Charles B. If it wasn't him, big up the person who it actually was. But he asked me for my wish list of fights for 2026. And Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois is very high up on that list. I'd love to see it. I think it's a great stylistic matchup. If we have a look at the heavyweight top 10 here, or top 15 with the 4 major sanctioned bodies, you'll see that Fabio Wardley, obviously WBO champion, Daniel Dubois ranked at number 4, so it would be a voluntary defense for Fabio Wardley, but certainly not a voluntary defense that anyone could grumble at. Because the people ranked above Dubois are Zhang, Hrgovic, Itama. Again, you couldn't grumble at Wardley fighting Dubois in a voluntary. So let me know what you guys think of this before we get back to the main topic at hand here. Okay, I think people have been a bit melodramatic, saying AJ literally needs to leave Nigeria completely because he was involved in a road accident. You can take precautions without being that, overly dramatic. Lucan says, Hatman, I disagree. Dubois doesn't deserve a title shot on the back of a loss. Touche, he doesn't. You're absolutely right. So let's see him maybe get a win first. I completely forgot about he's coming off the back of a loss to Alexander Usyk. Thank you for pulling me up on that. Pheasant says, totaled my car when I was 18. Nobody got hurt, but still shakes me to this day when driving. Matago says, fatal, question mark. Yes, fatal. 2 people lost their lives. Yeah, somebody's apparently posted the footage in my Element group, but somehow I can't actually look at the footage. It says, the sender has blocked you from receiving this message because your device is unverified. Bear in mind, it's my Element group, and I'm sure he hasn't done it on purpose. Okay, somebody has posted or a still image of it now, and yeah, the footage is horrific. Or this still image is horrific. You can see that someone has indeed lost their head. Literally. Obviously, I will not be posting this on the stream, right? These images that I'm looking at now on the stream. Yeah, the guy, his head was completely severed. So, brutal. Big up Liam Goff, aka G-Man in the chat. Shola says, no way AJ comes back from this. A lot of people are saying that, given the fact that these are apparently two of his friends. And they passed away next to him in the most gruesome fashion. So that's going to leave mental scars. And we don't know where he's at physically. Shout out to Mark Hatch. You guys who are just joining the live chat now, you can see the headline on screen. Anthony Joshua injured in a car crash that unalives two in Nigeria a week after the Jake Paul fight. There's footage online of the aftermath of this horrific incident. And according to reports, two of AJ's friends were the ones who were unalived. AJ miraculously made it out relatively unscathed, although he did suffer minor injuries. He was seen being escorted out of the wrecked vehicle, wincing in pain. All right, there are some people here who maybe a bit uninformed with regards to the situation in Africa. There are fantastic hospitals in Nigeria and also terrible ones. You get what you pay for. The same is the case for most African countries. Now, in some African countries, yeah, you just can't get any good medical care. But in other African countries, you can. And Nigeria is one of the top 3 richest countries in Africa. So I'm sure there are fantastic medical facilities in Nigeria if you've got the money to pay for them. AJ obviously does. However, some people are claiming that this incident happened in the middle of nowhere. If that's the case, then perhaps he's far from any decent hospitals. Okay, Supervision 1, please stop spamming the chat. We don't need that. Joel Schulman says, have to agree. If the injury doesn't end Joshua's career, the mental scars will. Notoriously deep thinker, he will very much be considering the value of his life more carefully after that. Okay, someone saying it wasn't far from Lagos. It happened in Ogun State. Shout out to Supersize Fries. He says, better all-time great, Usyk or Bud? I say Usyk. It's really hard to compare them because obviously Bud was Usyk was world champion in 2 weight classes. We're talking about undisputed with both guys. Usyk fought people at a much greater physical height and reach and weight disadvantage than Terence Crawford ever has. So it's really, really difficult to compare them. This is why one of the reasons I don't like pound for pound lists, or why I don't do pound for pound lists myself, because there are so many factors to take into account. You can make an argument for either. You could say, well, Canelo's a better quality fighter than anyone that Usyk has beaten, cruiserweight or heavyweight. Some people could make that argument. And you could also make the argument that although people criticize Terence Crawford's resume because there aren't that many big names in their prime on there, you could argue that the heavyweight division, because it's the glamour division, is one where people maybe overrate the talent at the top because it's the heavyweight division. Do you see what I'm saying? Because of the personalities. Can we be sure that pound for pound, the guys that Usyk beat at heavyweight were so much better than the guys Terence Crawford beat at 135, 140, 147, etc.? I'm not making a claim one way or the other. I'm just putting it out there as a counter which some people could make. So it's a very, very difficult thing to compare the two, whose achievements are greater. All I can tell you is that I've enjoyed Usyk's journey more than Crawford's journey. Crawford's journey's been great. He's a great fighter. He's done great things. But I've enjoyed Usyk's journey more. Sorry for the cop-out answer, but this is one of the reasons I don't do pound for pound lists. I think Usyk's journey has been more dramatic and more entertaining. But thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Big up Raptor for the super chat. He says, big up Hatman. I recently traveled from the UK to Kenya. Noticed that literally everyone wanted tips for everything, including taking a picture of us. Yeah, that's unfortunately common when you go to developing countries. Everyone wants money when they realize you're coming from the West. I mean, even when I was in the Caribbean last, there was a Jamaican guy on the beach, and he was trying to hassle me so he could take a picture of me and my then girlfriend and then charge me money. I had to tell him to buzz off. So, yeah, it's like that. Particularly in touristy areas. And particularly if you act like you're brand new. I would advise not acting like you're brand new. Not trying to be too chatty with people who are likely to want money off you. Chat to the locals who are well off. Because the locals who are well off, and there are plenty of them in Kenya, plenty of them in most African countries or wherever developing country you are in the world, most of them have a middle class of locals, and those are the people you really want to be getting chatty with because they don't need any money off you. But yeah, big up Raptor for the super chat. Big up Simon Brandy for the super chat. He says, a lot of psychologists in the chat. If I can overcome trauma in Afghanistan, I think AJ can recover. A near-death experience can galvanize you. Well, to push back on that a little bit, Simon Brandy, and I appreciate your super chat, not everyone is as strong mentally as you. Just because AJ has achieved more than you, as far as I'm assuming, being rich and all this type of stuff, doesn't necessarily mean as strong as you mentally. Doesn't necessarily mean as people process these things in different ways. And for me, it just remains to be seen how well because obviously, yeah, there are people writing off AJ's mental health following this, saying he'll never be the same again. I'm not saying that, but it's certainly a possibility. And what I will say, though, is that I was calling for AJ to retire after the Dubois fight. nothing that's happened since has convinced me that that was the wrong call for me to make, that he should retire. Could this situation galvanize him? I did mention earlier on in the chat, and again, big up Simon Brandy, that yeah, sometimes incidents like this can galvanize your resolve, can actually make you stronger. As the old saying goes, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. Sometimes that can happen. It can give you an extra motive, extra motivation, and extra drive. You know, it can unlock something in you. So yeah, that can definitely happen, and I guess you're a testament to that, but people are different, you know? So it remains to be seen how AJ will react to this mentally as well as physically, but much appreciated. Thank you, Simon Brandy, for the super chat. Simon Jones says, where's the photo of the... Well, I'm not going to post that photo here, obviously. That will get the stream probably taken down, but certainly demonetized, so I'm definitely not going to post that here. Somebody going in on Crawford. I don't get the Crawford hate, because a lot of it is hate. Crawford's a fantastic fighter, and for the most part, a very entertaining fighter to watch. But for me, Usyk's journey was more entertaining. It's not that Crawford was ever, a boring fight. Not boring in the ring at all. Maybe not the biggest personality in the world, but the most important thing is how exciting the fights are for any fighter. With Terence Crawford, he put on plenty of exciting performances, so I give him his flowers all day long. I just preferred watching Usyk, truth be told. Simon Brandy says, I agree with what you're saying, Hatman. My point is, we just don't know how it will affect AJ whilst I handle getting shot at in Afghanistan. I couldn't perform in the ring in front of millions. Yeah, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen, but he also suffered physical injuries, which could affect his career. We don't yet know the nature of those physical injuries. So it's a combination of, mental scars and physical ones. It's a very unfortunate situation. Well, someone says you don't become stronger through a fatal car accident. Well, Hasim Rahman, for those of you who don't know, has a scar on his face. That scar was from a fatal car accident where a friend of his, I think it was his best friend, lost his life. Yeah? That was before Hasim Rahman became heavyweight champion. It might have been when Rahman was still in the streets, because Rahman was a street guy. So it didn't stop Rahman from becoming heavyweight champion, right? Because he basically went through what AJ has just gone through. And he was strong enough to come back. Obviously, he had years to get over it, but he was strong enough to come back and become heavyweight champion. Shout out to Marcus for the super chat. He says, why did he even go there? He knows the dangers. Well, his family are from Nigeria, so, he regularly visits there. And it's not like everyone who goes to that, and he's been there loads of times before and nothing like this has happened. Tragic accidents like this can happen in any country in the world. Now, perhaps they're more likely in certain developing countries. But everyone is, giving wise words in retrospect. We're all guilty of doing that. For me, the thing would be, if the driver of the car was being unsafe, driving fast maybe, then AJ really should have had a word with him if that was the case. Do you know what I mean? Shout out to Supersized Fries. He says, Bud versus Duran at lightweight. Who you got? I got, and you know, Duran's one of the greatest lightweights of all time. But I've actually got Bud. And one of the reasons I got Bud is because lightweights back then were much smaller than lightweights today because of the same-day weigh-ins that they had back then. Obviously, Duran went all the way up to middleweight and won world titles. He even went up, I think, to super middleweight and beyond that very late on in his career. But as far as like taking on serious and beating serious fighters, he beat Iran Barkley for the middleweight title. And this is a guy who had his best years at lightweight. So he could take on bigger guys, no problem. But styles make fights. And me personally, if you're asking me, I'll probably take Bud in it at lightweight. But hey, if you want to pick Roberto Duran, I'm not going to argue it. Shout out to Supersized Fries. Shout out to Jazz. He says, how do car crashes affect you mentally? Thankfully, I've never been involved in a serious accident, only little minor skirmishes. There will be people in the chat that have been involved in more serious accidents, and they'll give you a much better answer. But for one, you can go into shock, and that can leave a mental scar that lasts for a very long time when you go into shock. In the case of AJ here, he has apparently lost 2 friends, and I've seen images of what happened to them, and one of them completely lost their head, literally. Seeing that can give you nightmares. It can absolutely traumatize you for a long time. You can get flashbacks. You can get anxiety, okay, PTSD, panic attacks. These are the things that can happen to people who have been through something like that. Not everyone is going to suffer these things to the same extent, but certainly it's known to happen that people will suffer PTSD, flashbacks, anxiety, panic attacks, stuff like that. But shout out to Jazz the First for the super chat. Yeah, the fact that AJ has lost 2 of his friends next to him in such violent fashion, that's not good, is it? If they were 2 strangers, it would be bad enough because of the violent nature in which they lost their lives. But people that he knew, I would imagine that's going to be tougher. Lazy B says, everyone deals with it differently. For example, Bugsy Malone was in a crazy crash and came back stronger. But did anyone lose their lives in that crash, though? For one, I don't know. I remember him being in that crash, but I don't remember if anyone lost their lives. And for 2, he's only a rapper. He doesn't have to go in there and perform as a professional fighter. Dominica says he might even blame himself for their fates, the 2 friends who lost their lives. Who knows? It's possible. I mean, we're all speculating here. We don't know. We have to wait and see. You would hope that he gets over it as best as possible. Mark Hatch says, yeah, most trauma leaves people damaged. It's a false narrative that it makes people stronger. Well, I always like the line from The Dark Knight when the Joker says, I believe whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stranger. I think that's probably more accurate. What doesn't kill you makes you stranger. Star Fox says, meanwhile, Luke Partridge has moved to the Isle of Man to avoid paying tax. And he lives very close to the Isle of Man, doesn't he? Because he lives in Morecambe, which is in the northwest of England. And it's right across the Irish, is the Irish Channel, the Irish Sea, what do they call it? I'm pretty sure you can get a boat from close to where Partridge lives over to the Isle of Man. Am I wrong? Like a ferry, couple hours ferry from where Partridge lives to the Isle of Man. Scouts Farm says, ferry over the Irish Sea and you're there. Yeah. Oh, wow. Kaizo says, someone said they're flying AJ out to get checked for internal damage. Okay, DJ says, yeah, 4-hour ferry. What's the nearest port to Partridge? Is it Barrow? The nearest ferry port. Backstage Boxing says you can see the Isle of Man from the northwest coast. Majesticra says one of the worst side effects from an accident is nerve damage. Indeed, nerve damage in a sport like boxing can be catastrophic, right? For example, Ray Mercer suffered nerve damage in his neck from the Lennox Lewis fight. When he eventually had surgery for that nerve damage, his punch resistance was never the same again. The amateur says, AJ always talked about death on his Snapchat stories. He thinks about it a lot. That's ominous. Lays says, yeah, someone in the chat said after car crashes, sometimes someone could look fine but collapse a few days later. Scary stuff. Star Fox says, yeah, looks like you can see the island from Morecambe Beach going by Google Maps. Then he says AJ's been driving recklessly on his Snapchat for years. Has he? Although he wasn't the driver in this case, so it's kind of a moot point. He was a backseat passenger. Oh, wow. Simon Brandy says, Hearn has released a statement. Is it on his Instagram page? I will check it out now and put it up on the stream. Big up Matt Borgerson for the super chat. He says, I can't imagine the trauma for AJ, man. Tragic. Indeed, very tragic. Condolences to the people who passed away, and you can only wish AJ a speedy recovery and a full recovery. So let me have a look at fast car. I shouldn't even use that term. Very inappropriate, but you know, they call him that. Slip of the tongue there from me. I apologize. Eddie Hearn. Let's have a look at Eddie Hearn on Instagram. See if the statement is up on his page. Okay. Where are we at? I'm looking for a statement on Eddie Hearn's Instagram page, and I can't see one there. Perhaps he's put a statement up on X. Can anyone tell me? Okay, they're saying Eddie Hearn released his statement via the Daily Mail. So let me check that out. Shout out to Rory Dempster for the super chat. Much appreciated. Thank you for the support. No comment on that one, just a super chat. Again, appreciate the support. Let me just refresh this Firefox tab. You know, Firefox are always trying to do me dirty. I'm gonna make sure I'm up to date with all the super chats, all the other comments that I can get to. Okay, they're saying Simon Brandy says TalkSport have the statement as well. Let me try to get that up for you guys here and read it out. So I'm on the Mail article here. I'm looking for the statement. Okay, the Daily Mail understands that the car's tire burst. So, yeah, it was a burst tire according to the Daily Mail. It says, authorities said the SUV that AJ was traveling in is believed to have been traveling beyond the legally prescribed speed limit and lost control while making an overtaking maneuver before crashing into a truck parked on the side of the road. The Daily Mail understands the car's tire burst when it swerved and hit the truck. And people are saying there were no ambulances. Well, there actually was something there in here. Is it a police car? I'm not sure. I think that's a police car rather than an ambulance, to be fair. But there was, AJ was taken away, I think, in a police car. It's a Mitsubishi four-wheel drive. Yeah, I think it's a police car that AJ was taken away in, based on the image I'm seeing here. But this is still not an Eddie Hearn statement. So this is part of what Eddie Hearn said. He said, I'm away from my family on holiday and awoke to the news of this incident. We are trying to contact Anthony, and in the meantime, we don't want to speculate on how he is, but thankfully he appears to be okay from what I've seen in the images. We are awaiting more information on what has happened and will update in due course. It says here that AJ's security detail was in the vehicle behind them before the crash. It was a few minutes after the crash, officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps arrived. It says the passenger beside the driver and the one beside AJ died on the spot. So, yeah, AJ and the driver survived. The other two on the passenger side did not. Shout out to Marcus for the super chat. He says, do you think it is a setup? I have no reason to suspect that it is at this point. Anything is possible, of course, but I have no reason to suspect at this stage of the game that it was any kind of setup. There's a lot of reckless driving in the world, and probably in Nigeria more so than most countries. Someone's tire apparently blown out, and when you're overtaking at speed, allegedly, and your tire blows out, very bad things can happen. Yep, we're aware, Linkage. It's two of AJ's friends that passed. I've seen the links that you've posted in the, or excuse me, Tari posted the links in the Element group to the graphic video, and it is very graphic. Okay, there's somebody saying AJ speeding. No, AJ wasn't the one driving. AJ was a passenger. He was sat behind the driver. Jimmy Nail says, people in Jamaica drive crazy even around mountains with no barriers. Yeah, a friend of mine nearly lost his life because of a crazy Jamaican driver. Was it in a minibus or a cab? One of the two. And they nearly fell off a cliff. Shout out to Scouse Farm. All the best to you and yours as well. Was his cousin Ben Yemi with him? Not as far as I'm aware, no. Unless he was in the security detail in the car behind, because his security were behind him in a different car. According to reports, there were two people that lost their lives, and AJ's cousin was not one of them. So if he was there, he's okay, apparently. Yeah, him says it's not confirmed, don't say RIP yet. No, it is confirmed that two people lost their lives. The Nigerian authorities have released that two people have definitely lost their lives. And I've seen footage of the individuals, and yeah, they've definitely passed away. People are saying it's crazy how one side of the car is written off, but the side with the driver and AJ was okay. And yes, the 2 foreign nationals, that's right, that information has been released to the press. 2 foreign nationals have lost their lives. They're not Nigerians. And as far as the driver's side being relatively okay compared to the passenger side, well, presumably they were overtaken, obviously, and so the truck is going to be closer to the passenger side. So when the tire blew out, it's obviously going to be the passenger side that hits the truck. So the luck is on being on the driver's side, choosing to sit there behind the driver rather than on the passenger side. I saw the images of the passed away people in my Element group. Somebody posted them in there, video. Very, very gory, graphic video in my Element group. But as I understand it, the footage is also doing the rounds on X. So if you have an X account, you may be able to track it down on there. No Vibes Found says, Hatman, the other guy is of Nigerian descent like AJ. Well, I've looked at his Instagram page and he looks like a mixed race guy. So somebody that's maybe half Nigerian. He's very light skinned. So presumably, a half Nigerian guy. Then he says, healthy mindset confirmed at this point. Well, Badu Jack confirmed one of them. Because he's RIP'd him and he knows the guy personally. I think it might have been Cena Evolve, who Badu Jack confirmed. Kieran Malcolm is saying Dean White has posted on his story that it was Healthy Mindset and Cena who passed away. All right, peeps, I'm going to shut this stream down. I might do another stream later on, no guarantees, with any updates on this particular story, if we get any. Until then, take care, be good. Special shout out to those who donated via Super Chat. They were HC6417, Copezilla, Danny, Sideman, Ben Odom, The Amateur, El Booga, The Boxing Factor, Charles B, United 927, Ray Cole Brown, Supersized Fries, Raptor, Simon Brandy, Marcus, Jazz the First, Matt Borgerson, Rory Dempster. Thank you all for your contributions, and shout out to everyone else who joined the conversation. Obviously, horrible news in this instance, but obviously, aside from the tragic loss of life, this could also negatively affect Anthony Joshua's boxing career moving forward. It's very possible. Okay, we will see. So yeah, take care, be good, stay safe out there, folks. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.